I am Denise Griffitts, and this is your partner in Success Radio, transforming leaders and organizations around the world. My guest today on your partner in Success Radio, Laura Thompson, is a Fortune 500 advisory coach, an executive advisor, and author dedicated to helping leaders thrive in today's rapidly evolving business environment. And this episode is sponsored by Damon Limby and Learn It All Press. Damon is not only a guest on the show, he is also a sponsor, and we really appreciate him trusting this show as much as he does, but he is also a leader who helps experts rather, transform their knowledge into books that strengthen credibility, elevate their message, and create new opportunities. Learn It All Press exists for leaders who have something meaningful to say and want to say it well, and Damon helps leaders turn their expertise into books that build trust, authority, and visibility. So if you are ready to shape your message into something lasting, Learn It All Press can help. You just go to learnitallpress.com. Now back to my guest. Transforming leaders and organizations around the world, Laura Thompson is a Fortune 500 advisory coach, executive advisor, and she's an author dedicated to helping leaders thrive. And we mentioned that earlier in today's rapidly evolving business environment. This is the important part about what she does, though. Her work centers on values-based leadership. I'm going to read that again. Values-based leadership, organizational transformation, human-centered decision-making, and preparing leaders for what she calls the intelligence age. And we're talking about AI, technology, and the constant disruption that requires leaders to become more adaptable, resilient, and purpose-driven than ever before. Laura, good morning. Welcome to the show, and thank you for sending me your book. I have really enjoyed getting acquainted with your work. But before we dive into our conversation, would you tell our listeners a little bit about you and the journey that led you to the work you're doing today?
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Denise, for having me. I've been looking forward to your Partner in Success podcast. Yeah, the journey started in coaching about 11 years ago, and I was coaching executives from around the world, probably on at least 5 continents, and I kept seeing similar themes, universal themes. And I saw a gap, and the gap was values. And I think we could all agree we see this gap in companies, in governments, even in world organizations. And I wanted to address it with my book, and that's why I called it A Culture and Values. And then when I used the foundational values technique with my clients, it transformed themselves personally, their teams, and then they paid it forward and even transformed their organizations. So I found it really powerful, and I just felt like the world needs to hear this message. I can reach a wider audience with the book. And that was really the genesis for the book, as well as being encouraged by a dear college friend of mine who's a professor at a California university. And she kept saying, Laura, you got to write this book. Uh, everyone needs to hear this message. So that's in a nutshell of why I wrote the book, um, based on all those experiences.
And it makes sense. And I'm on page 5. By the way, I have to tell the audience, I took a picture of one of my giant ginger cats who lives on my desk. His name is #Silas the Good. And I've got the cutest picture of him just laying on that book and holding it down. He didn't want it to go anywhere so much. And I think I shared that with you. But I'm on page 5. And basically, throughout the book, you introduce us to leaders. Some are widely known, others less so. But what they do is exemplify the power of authentic leadership. And I agree with you. We don't see nearly as much of that as we need to, particularly in politics. We'll just put it
Mm,
out there. I learned a long time ago as a child to listen to what people say and then watch what they do. It's
mhm.
eye-opening. It's really eye-opening.
Yeah, it is about deep listening, listening without judgment, which is very hard for people, and being non-biased. And those are some barriers to cross. It's not easy, but if we could communicate in that way, we would definitely have a healthier world.
No kidding. And many leadership conversations focus on strategy and performance, but you believe that transformation begins somewhere much deeper. So my
Mhm.
question, I guess, is what do transformative leaders, Mandela is one of them, Nelson Mandela, what do they have
Mm.
in common?
Well, yeah, I love Nelson Mandela. He's definitely, uh, an exemplary leader, and he really had some deep core values, and, he had a rough life, and
He
his
really did. I don't know how he survived so much of it.
yeah, and his leadership principles were grounded what I would call values, which was forgiveness, compassion, and respect for human dignity. And, proving that true leadership isn't about power, it's about service, integrity, and the courage to create meaningful change. So, he's probably one of the best examples in the world. He leads from values, not his ego. And I think transformative leaders combine self awareness, courage, empathy, and accountability, and they're willing to evolve as the world around them changes. And as you said earlier, we're in a constantly volatile world. It's always changing. And when you have this foundation of values, it keeps you grounded and centered. And you mentioned I go deeper, and it's true. I call it inner mastery, achieving outer impact, meaning transformation starts from within before it ever shows up, with your team, your organization, or even society if you're volunteering for a nonprofit. And I also like to call it the inside out architecture. Meaning, like, you start with yourself, me, and then you go to we, and that could be like your team. Then you go to the system, that can be the organization, and then society. So, I just love this inner mastery, outer impact approach. And I base it on three pillars. And that would be you start with self awareness, then your values, and then purpose, which I believe is the foundation of transformative leadership. And it's important to understand the foundation before getting into like responsible leadership in the intelligent age, with AI. So I'll start first with the first pillar, which is self awareness. And I always like to bring practical tools, which you find in my book as well. After each chapter, there's an exercise, so you can put it into practice. And a practical way to build self awareness is to distinguish between your innate qualities, which means who you naturally are. These traits present early in your life, and they're actually the sources of your energy and joy. And I'll give you an example of mine. As a child, I was curious, imaginative, adventurous. I was at a workshop recently at a financial institution, and the question I got was, aren't all children curious and imaginative?
No, they're not.
Oh, how interesting. Okay,
That's
so
just observation. No, they're not.
oh,
Many
okay,
are just reactive, in my opinion.
oh, how interesting. Because this group thought everyone was curious and imaginative as a child. But I find it very interesting that you say, no, they're not. And my other question would be what adults have maintained their innate qualities in their adult life? So for me, have I remained curious and imaginative and adventurous? Yes, I have brought that into my adult life. And I'm curious if you'd like to share, Denise, can you think of innate qualities that you have that you were like as a child and that you have brought into your adult life?
I Many people already know if they've heard me on this show, they know I'm a card-carrying introvert, but I'm not shy and I don't have any filters, but I'm also, um, I read. I read everything. And I don't sleep all of that well. I never have. My mother used to say that I refused to sleep because I was reading at 3 because it
Mhm.
cut into my reading time. So that leads to my curiosity. I'm curious about everything. I read it, I listen to it, I study it. But as a child growing up, I would just, and this is observing my family members, the neighborhood kids, they were just going. They were go, 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 go. But I never really noticed any of them doing any introspective work. They didn't know how to. And I think too much of that goes forward into adulthood because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you're
Mm,
tolerating. You don't know what your innate abilities are. I mean, for the longest kind of time, I didn't think I had any empathy at all because I'm an A-type personality. Well,
mm,
how wrong was I? But I didn't
mm.
know. I hadn't discovered it yet. Does that make
Yeah,
sense?
yeah, absolutely makes sense. And also with you as a podcast host, you read a lot of books,
A
right?
lot. Yes, I do. A lot.
So you brought that childhood characteristic, that innate quality with you into your adult life, and you're flourishing as a result. And I imagine it brings you, love and joy doing what you're doing.
It does, and I get to meet people like you from all over the world, and I'm looking around my office. I have thousands of books in here, thousands.
Mm,
Every single book in this room was gifted to me by people like you. Every single book.
wow, that is
I've got
so
books in the garage, I've got them all over, but these are for my guests, period.
that is so cool. So to create a little bit of contrast, the acquired qualities are what most people know. It's like what you've developed through education, your career, your life experience. It's the titles, the credentials, your capabilities. It's like the person who's become CEO of their own company or a VP in tech. They've got their bachelor's, their PhD. They might be married, divorced, single. So those are acquired qualities. And the self awareness comes in when you realize there's tension between the acquired qualities when it's overshadowing the innate, and that causes distress or unease. And that's when a lot of leaders I've coached, they'll have worked 20, 30 years, and then they get this existential crisis because the innate qualities start sort of saying, "Hello, I'm here."
Yeah, I'm still here. And I wrote down while you were talking about the acquired qualities, and I wrote that down as identities. Isn't that you identify yourself as now?
Yeah, absolutely. And most people identify, yeah, with their acquired qualities or their identity. Like I had a friend, dear friend, she was like top insurance woman in her industry. And then during, I think it was the pandemic, she got fired because she cost too much. And she fell apart because her identity was being, the number one insurance person at her company. And she didn't know who she was. And she went through, probably a year of trying to figure out like who she really is based on her innate qualities, not what she is, which is the identity. And again, that's the existential crisis that a lot of people go through. So I'll give an example of an aligned leader. He was an actual client of mine. So, I'm always going through these exercises with my clients to get that core foundation in place before they become transformed. So, he was someone as a child who loved planes, anything to do with planes. And later on, he became an aeronautical engineer. And now he works at an eVTOL airplane company, meaning 100% electric, designing urban air taxis. His innate curiosity and his acquired expertise aligned, and he leads with energy because he's integrated his innate and acquired qualities slash identity. And his team, he has a huge team, they absolutely love working for him because he's just so energized and passionate about what he does. He brings excitement to everything. And then contrast that with someone chasing status, title, or compensation, which are valid values, but at the expense of family, well-being, and what generally brings them joy. And misalignment often shows up as burnout, regret, health issues like gaining weight and not valuing yourself. I had another client, he actually left one of the top tech companies to create his own company. And he was so trying. I mean, it's understandable. He was put all his energy into building the company, and he now has 25 employees, which is extraordinary, like within 2 years. But he was upset because he gained 25 pounds. He wasn't paying attention to his family. And ultimately, he said, I'm not valuing myself. And that's really powerful. So, again, it doesn't have to be about changing careers to get alignment, but more about recalibrating how you show up. And for some people, they may need that day job, but they can find joy outside of work to restore that balance, whether it's through hobbies, nonprofit work, or even being like a captain of your child's soccer team. I have seen that too with a lot of my clients. So I'm really happy you shared with me, Denise, how you were as a child, what lit you up. And, for the people listening, I would invite them to reflect about their innate and acquired qualities or their identity. And then maybe what's one small step they could take to reduce that gap to achieve greater happiness. Because I do feel we can have happiness in our life.
We should have it.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be just we could have it, we should have it. Should be part of our makeup. It should be part of who we are, how we bounce out of bed, and my mom used to say, that she sent me a birthday card one year, and I opened it up, and it said, her feet hit the floor, and the devil said, "Oh, crap, she's awake," because that's how I wake up every day. Thanks, Mom. But to me, happiness, and I don't mean the kind where you're bubbling around and you've got champagne bubbles all over your head. Happiness
Mm,
should be innate. It should be
mm,
something, and I'm gonna go back to what you just said because that was important. I underlined it. When you value yourself, you're going to be a much
mm,
happier, kinder, compassionate, alert person, and you're going to know, I believe, when you have to do some deep diving into who you are, what you're doing, and why the hell you did that. Excuse the
mm,
language. So, you have to be, I think, awareness
mhm,
and valuing yourself are things that kind of get lost because we're grasping, we're looking, we're building, we're busy, 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 busy. And then we
mhm,
kind of lose sight of who we really came into the world to be.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely, which goes into my second pillar, which are the core values. So how you show up matters. Uh, Values can be decision filters. They become most visible under pressure. And again, when you personally align your values with your innate qualities, I think you're more in harmony. You can stretch yourself beyond them because we're always learning and growing. And professionally, your values might align with your firm's guiding principles. They may not align. Hopefully, they do. Um, if not, maybe change your company.
Right? Gotta
So,
go now.
so just as an example, I had an experiential leadership workshop at the number one asset management firm in the world related to my book. And this company walks the talk. The employees are engaged with the firm's five principles, which I found really cool because I would say 80% of the time I don't find the employees engaged with the company's values or principles. So in this case, the five principles were we are a fiduciary to our clients, we are one, which I thought was very interesting. We are passionate about performance. We take emotional ownership. We are committed to a better future. And from the CEO down, you know, to the entry level employee, they really embrace these five principles. And I believe because of that, that's probably why they're the number one asset management firm, because they are all in alignment. So when leaders consistently act from values, three things happen. Trust increases, emotional regulation improves, which means better decision making. And that goes into the last thing that can happen. Yeah, decisions become clearer and more grounded. So, values based leadership creates psychological safety, which is so important in today's world because of all the volatility, and it creates trust. And trust is really key now in organizations. And I'll get into that a little bit later um, with some research to validate that. So, I guess, what I would want your audience to reflect upon are what are your top three values? Mine would be, again, it goes back to my innate quality of curiosity. It has evolved into being of service, and that's where my executive advisory role comes in, and fun. I love to have fun. So when you talked about your ginger cat, having his paw on my book, I just thought that was fun and so
Oh,
cute.
he was hanging on. I tried to budge him a couple of times and he wasn't having it. He's like, "Nope, my book."
It's just so cool. And maybe, would you like to share at the top of your mind, maybe your top three values?
They're very much like yours. And in fact, I'm listening to you going, "Yep, yep. Oh, heck yeah." So they're very much like yours. I For me, curiosity is probably the most important thing. I'm curious about everything. And like I said, I read. In fact, I was reading at 3 and I remember I don't remember much about my childhood. I don't know how many of us do really. It's kind of a blur. But I remember in kindergarten, my mom got called in to the classroom, and my kindergarten teacher, she's the only teacher's name I remember. Her name was Mrs. Keller. She was an Amazon. She was German, and she
Mm.
was big, and my mom was about as big as a minute. She had to jump like a flea to get to us. If she wanted to yell at us, she had to jump up and get us. But she called her in there, and here's my tiny little mom, and here's this, very large woman, and she said, "Denise won't nap." Well, I said, "Okay." And my mom said, "Why is she making noise? Is she, being disrupted?" "No, she just refuses to take a nap." And she says she can read, and by then, kindergarten, I think you're 5 years old, and I was reading, and the woman wasn't having it, and my mom looked at her, she looked way up at her. She said, "What makes you think she can't read?" She said, "Well, I don't know." She said, "Have you given her a book to read?" "No, I read the stories." And my mom looked at her and said, "She can read." And the woman was my mom just flustered her no end. And she said, "Well, why can she read?" It was her only comeback, and my mom looked way up at her again. She said, "Because we didn't tell her she couldn't."
Oh, how beautiful.
I know, it's the smartest thing my mom ever did. And
Yeah.
we all the whole family were just voracious readers, but I'll read anything. I mean, I was reading 1984 when I was too young to really absorb. Scared the crap out of me and still does. But,
Mm,
I was reading things like Guy de Maupassant. I was reading a lot of the classics. I would
wow.
read not at 3 and 4 and 5, but when I was very young, Count of
Mhm.
Monte Cristo, anything by
Wow.
Earl Stanley Gardner and Agatha Christie. I'll read
How
anything.
fun.
I know, but you learn so much by reading.
Oh,
So
you do.
much.
Mhm.
So and when I hear people can't read or don't like to read, I'm thinking, "You just don't know what you're missing. You just don't know."
Mm. Yeah, it takes you into worlds of fantasy, adventure, mystery, especially
And
Agatha Christie.
yeah, doesn't look I have Agatha Christie. But, when you're reading and people say and I don't really watch TV, I don't enjoy it, I don't wanna sit and watch it, I just give me a book. Because when you're reading these sentences, you're creating your own pictures,
Mhm.
and your own feelings. Sometimes you can even smell what you're thinking.
Mhm.
It's just an excellent way to get into your own mind and see what's in there.
Mm. Oh, that's so beautiful. Wow. Thank you for sharing. I really appreciate that.
Oh, give me a book, I'm telling you. I will read anything. But it's so impor so I can't even remember what else you asked me, but curiosity, I think, is my besetting sin, if you will. I'm curious about everything.
Okay, so I would just probably paraphrase and say it's your top value,
Yes,
curiosity.
absolutely.
So a reflective question for leaders in your audience. Everyone is a leader, but maybe when you're leading a team or an organization, is when you're under pressure, which of the values show up most strongly and which tend to disappear? And that question alone can change how you lead yourself, your team, your organization. Oftentimes we don't know until we're tested. So I'll just give a little example. When I'm under pressure, it's a value of mine, but it's lower on the list. I become very calm when most people are just, you know, frantic. And I didn't know that until, I had experiences where I was under a lot of pressure. And that helped me lead the team and the organization because of my calm ability to keep everyone else calm and to do what they were meant to do. Um, so that's something for your listeners to reflect upon. And I'll jump into the third pillar. I'm tying it in with building legacies through purpose-driven leadership. So the third pillar is just purpose. And when leaders lead with purpose, they shift from short-term wins to long-term impact. Legacy leadership brings everything full circle, from the foundational cultural values to the enduring influence leaders leave behind in their people, organizations, and communities. And going back to Nelson Mandela, I mean, what his legacy that he left behind, not only for South Africa, but for the world, is just remarkable. And I love to share the story. It's actually a true story. There was a cathedral burnt down in London, I think in the 1600s, and Sir Christopher Wren, who was the architect in charge of rebuilding St. Paul's, one day went around and asked three bricklayers um, this question, like, "What are you doing?" And the first one said, "I'm laying bricks to feed my family." And from his perspective, that was his purpose and probably his value. He wanted to provide for his family. The second one he asked said, "I'm building a wall." So the second one thought of what he was doing as he's laying bricks was, it's a profession. I'm building a wall.
And he's building something.
Mm-hmm. And then the third one he asked, puts his arms up in the air and says, "I'm building a cathedral to the Almighty."
There you go.
So he was building something greater than himself, and it gave him purpose. It gave him meaning. And I think, you know, different narrative, different level of ownership. There's no right or wrong. Everyone's in a different stage in life. But what's important is if it gives you meaning and fulfillment, and you really do feel it's like part of your purpose. So if you think about it, purpose does build upon your innate qualities and values. And again, you may find it at work or through family, community, or service. There's no hierarchy. Uh, but as a leader, your role in this is, again, if you're leading a team or even an organization, is helping your people to see the cathedral, see the vision, the mission, the strategy to get there, and communicate it clearly to your teams. And I've seen this with a lot of clients of mine, this breakdown in culture and productivity when the leader doesn't know how to translate the vision to his people. Uh, Sometimes he doesn't even know the vision. Like his team will be asking him, "What's your vision?" And he won't know. He'll sort of hide because he doesn't know, and he's probably his ego's getting in the way.
Or he'll
Uh,
have ChatGPT write something that sounds good.
right. Yeah, in today's world. So what happens is the team gets lost, and they might start not being as productive as they should be. So recently there was this one story. He was a tech person and all he knew was tech. But for some reason, the company promoted him to general manager, leading like 10 different verticals. And he really had no idea how to articulate a vision and mission to his team. And, they did kept going up to him and asking him, can you please articulate a vision and mission so we know what we're doing? Like, we want to be working for something greater than ourselves to get motivated. And what he in effect was lacking those skills. He'll have to learn those skills. And as a leader, it's really important to understand how your team's work contributes to something larger. And when they understand that, the engagement rises, innovation rises, accountability rises, and then people feel valued because they understand their impact.
Laura, when you were spelling out the five principles, I wrote underneath all of that communication.
Oh, absolutely. Communication, communication, communication is so important.
And here's the thing, if you don't know what you're doing, say so and then ask for help. People
Mhm.
genuinely do want to help you. I don't think it's all that common, if people might think it is, that people look at you and go, I hate you and I want you to fail. I don't think we want that at all. But we
No.
also don't want to be left flapping in the wind.
No, no. Yeah, I think for some people, it's yeah, I think they're especially men, well, women too, they're afraid to feel vulnerable and ask for help. They feel like, "Oh my god, I need to know everything, I'm the leader." But in fact, if they were vulnerable, it shows their humanness. And as you're saying, people do wanna help
They
because
do.
Mhm.
They really do. 'Cause it took me the longest kind of time to figure that out because I'm the smartest person in the room, and I can say that because I live alone, so I'm not lying. But but it took me a long time to get past that. I almost killed my business. I'm a web developer by trade, and I came
Mm,
very close to losing my team because I wanted them to do what I wanted them to do, and basically my attitude unsaid, but still my attitude was do what you're told, nobody gets hurt. They did,
mm,
but it was malicious compliance. They did exactly what I told them and nothing more. And I
mm,
realized that I was just hamstringing them, and I got on a call and I said, "Listen, I hire each one of you for different parts of my business because" and I finally figured this out, "you are better than I am at something." My
mm.
knowledge may be old. It may be something that I learned 20 years ago. It may be something that I haven't kept up on. But this is your business. You're working for me as a contractor, and you're maintaining your business in this discipline beautifully. I'm staying out of your way from now on. When I ask you to do something, do it your way, and we'll just go from there. And a lot of them are still with me. But I had to, just get off my high horse and think that I was the smartest person in the room.
Yeah, and, you were, and until you realized you hired them for their
Right.
expertise.
Until I wasn't. And then went, "Well, that's good information to have." So but it
Yeah.
completely changed how we're gonna go back to communication to how I communicate with them.
Yeah,
And
it's
I asked them, "What do you suggest? Do you have this is what I
Mhm,
want to happen. Do you have a better way to do it?" And they always do.
mhm. And that takes a humble leader.
Well,
You
it
you
took a scared leader. I was about to nominate a team. I was gonna have to do it all on my own, and I didn't wanna do that.
Right, right. So, what I also like to say as a leader, yeah, never tell people what to do, but empower them.
Yeah,
And what you did was empower them. You said, like, what solutions do you have? What can you do? How do you
right.
prepare? Whatever it is.
Well, I finally recognized their worth as opposed to my own. And
Mm.
guess who was way down at the bottom of the org chart? Me. So,
Uh, oh
but
wow.
I had to really get off my high horse. That's the only way I can say it. It's like, you cannot order people around. You cannot tell them to do this. Don't deviate. They're going to leave you.
Yeah. And I have had clients in the military, and it doesn't work in the military either, unless you're on the battlefield. That's different.
Right. Right.
But if you're on the ground, like, in a US office, they have to learn too not to order people what to do because you get resistance. And they have to learn how to empower their team, not through orders. And I like to call that influence without authority.
Oh,
But
say that again.
yeah, influence without authority.
Okay, let's take a deep dive into that.
Oh, okay. Well, that is more. Yeah. Influence without authority just means uh, you lead by empowering your colleagues, your team,
And by
even
example,
even upper management. And um, sorry, I had a little telephone call, unfortunately. Um, an example, influence
well, I
without
follow people.
authority.
If people are leading by example, I'm paying
Mm-hmm.
attention. As I said at the top of the show, I may not listen to everything you say. In fact, probably I'm not,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm watching very carefully where the disconnect is between what you say and what you do. And that's something that I think many
Mm.
people listen. They're like, oh, yeah, so and so said this, and this politician said that. I don't care. I want to know what they actually did about that statement. Is it congruent? Does it make sense? Are they actually following through? Or are these just, talking points? And so much of what we hear anymore, in my opinion, and I don't watch TV, I really don't. I found my remote underneath the couch the other day. Couldn't figure out how to turn the darn thing on. Give me a book. But, but I'm watching, I'm on X, I'm here, there, and I'm watching and I'm thinking, well, that was a lie. And once people start recognizing that you're not talking from a place of empathy or understanding or honestly or any of the words that we would use, you're lost. They don't like you anymore.
Yeah, I guess it ties into being well from the point of view of being authentic.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. So whoever you are as a leader, and yeah, if you walk the talk, so it goes back to the values, the principles. Um, I would say taking emotional ownership is huge. When leaders take ownership, that in a way that means being vulnerable, admitting they made a mistake and allowing others in a meeting, like, how could we have done this better? What can we do going forward? And allowing that vulnerability and allowing, the ideas from others. And in that empowers them. It goes back to empowerment. And then that's where the buy-in comes from or the build-in, because if your team is giving you suggestions or solutions and then you're enacting them, you've just influenced them without authority. It's almost like a democratization. You are their peer. You are working together. Uh, I think that's what I mean by influence without authority. You don't have to have a title. You could actually be influencing the CEO. Maybe you see a gap in the organization and somehow communicate that upwards. It could be through your boss's boss, to finally get to the CEO or whoever is important decision maker. And they'll say, "That's fantastic. Let's do a pilot project, and if it works, we'll roll it out, either as a product or service or if it's something internal." And that again is influence without authority because it actually an innovative idea came from someone, working right in the field. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm going back to one of my favorite authors, Dr. Napoleon Hill. And I
Mm.
believe he was the one who introduced the world to masterminding. And I think so many meetings are, in essence, if they're done properly, where people are listening, they're sharing, they're paying attention, they're animated, they've got ideas. Those are
Mm.
masterminds.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm actually a mastermind moderator facilitator in the tech world, and it's all peers, and they absolutely learn and grow from one another, and they share their experiences. Uh, it's just amazing. So they are actually influencing without authority.
Yeah, I knew it was going to go back to that. And that does make sense. I mean, you can't be a person of one and just issue orders and hope it all works out well.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I guess like you could if you're a single person living alone, but
With cats.
with cats.
Yeah.
But even cats are independent thinkers,
Oh, and
right?
they're critical thinkers. They're mean. They're very judgmental, just so you know. You know what I wanted to talk with you about? Artificial intelligence. I mean, we're talking about it constantly.
Mhm.
Everybody is. I mean, it's changing nearly every industry. So here's my question. What does truly human-centered leadership look like to you in the AI area? We can't ignore it. Everybody who's listening, you cannot ignore it. Don't think that you can, you can't.
Oh, no, yeah, definitely. I've actually been finding some beautiful things. Uh, so just like a little summary, as technology accelerates, what makes leaders effective is becoming more human. And human-centered leadership means anchoring innovation in values, ethics, trust, treating people with respect and dignity, and to use AI to enhance productivity so people remain the point. And I think that's what's really important. So, what I keep hearing from clients is how they're using agentic AI to help them streamline employee reviews. So, this would be like at your Fortune 500 companies, and how the AI is making it more accurate, personalized. It cuts down hundreds of hours of work because normally they would have had to be doing this, you know, without AI. And that hundreds of hours turned into a few hours. And then a recent client just told me, she said, it allowed me actually to focus on mentoring my team members versus being stressed out, not enough time, being overwhelmed because I had to do these employee reviews on top of doing my work, and it was always very stressful. And eh, she loves how AI is helping increase productivity, speed, lowering costs, and it's leading her and others to be more present for their team, being more human. Listening goes back to listening skills again, listening to who they are, what they want, uh, being more in tuned with them. And as a result, what happens again, it will increase the employee motivation, engagement, morale. So uh, my ideal is that the focus is turning toward human-centered leadership while AI is being positively leveraged as a tool.
And it
So
is a tool. I'm glad you said that. Yes, so people say, "I'm gonna
mm,
lose my job." It's a tool. Learn
yeah.
how to use it, and once you learn how to use it, you'll love as an example, as a podcaster, I do 3 of these a week. There's a lot of work that goes into these, especially if I'm reading your book, and I read your book 3 times, by the way.
Oh, wow.
That's a whole 'nother story, but I read it 3 times, I review it, you send it to me, it's important that I understand it, that I understand what you wanna talk about, and it was a gift, I treat it like a gift, but I get Monday through Sunday, and sometimes twice on Sunday, I open my email and somebody's wanting to come on the show. It's a podcast booker, it may be somebody that found me on LinkedIn, which is happening more and more. In your
Mhm.
case, it was, Tess Woods, who is somebody that has been sending me authors and books for years. In fact, I
And
blame
she's
her. She
wonderful.
is. I blame her for why I have to do this 3 times a week. But but I get books, so I'm all happy. But
Mm,
what happens is that I'm burdened, I'm overburdened, I'm like, because people will send me a one sheet. They're beautiful, they're gorgeous, they're biased. It's telling me what you want me to know, not what my audience wants to know. So I
mhm,
will go to perplexity.ai as the
mm,
best place if you're going to search for something, it's for research, and I'll put
mhm,
in the name, put the author's name, I'll give it enough information, say, "Okay, tell me who this person is, what they have done in the past, what's important for my podcast audience to know, and then finally, would they be a good guest for your Partner in Success Radio?" You would not believe what is returned, and I mean within minutes, just a few minutes. and I can make an instant decision. Sure, I'll invite them for a pre-interview. It used to be that I would spend hours hunting them down, going to LinkedIn, going minutes, and I keep it as a document. And I've had several podcasts when I'm doing the pre-interviews, which is mandatory, by the way, and
Mhm.
tell them, yeah, I looked you up on Perplexity. What's Perplexity? And I'll say, well, it said that you would be a good get. What did it say about me? 'Cause people get worried. And I have that document. I'll send it to them while we're talking.
Wow. Wow.
And they're
Yeah, ye
they're learning things about themselves that they didn't know or had
Mhm.
forgotten.
Mhm.
So use the tools.
Yeah, so you're leveraging Perplexity,
Yeah.
which is fabulous.
I don't use chat that much, and I love Claude. I'm, never going to marry again, but if I were, I'd marry Claude. That's just all there is to it. But I use Claude and I use Perplexity a lot, and it clears the desk a lot of the times.
I did see it was a play, in a work in progress, and the playwright wrote about, a lady falling in love with her, like Claude,
Yeah.
and then the husband gets jealous.
My business partner and we've decided we're both going to marry Claude. I introduced my sister to Claude, and she's like, "I'm taking him from y'all. You can't have him." So we've got this whole three-way argument over who owns Claude. We all do.
Yeah,
But
it's
they're
pretty funny.
tools. Use them, but use them carefully. Understand what you're
Yeah.
doing. Don't just take whatever chat, throws at you. I call it chat slop, and
Yeah,
post it
having
like
the
you wrote
critical
it.
thinking.
Yeah, yeah, don't do that.
Yeah, no, I always will say to anyone, like, using AI, remember the critical thinking skills. We gotta challenge it. Is that true? Have it back it up with sources. That I've learned as a writer. You gotta back up everything, especially as a nonfiction writer.
Right, right.
Where did the research come from? That's
And
so important.
Perplexity does that, by the way. It gives you all of the
Mhm.
sources. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, Perplexity is great for
Mhm.
for research.
Now, I wanted to go off just a ooh, we've only got about 10 more minutes. You're going to have to come back. Can you come back in the new year?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. I'm booked all the way through November right now.
Wow.
Yeah, kinda scary, but I would love to come back. I didn't get anywhere near as far as I wanted with the book, and
Mhm.
this is just a fascinating conversation. I would like to continue it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I guess how much time do we have left about?
We have about 10 minutes.
Okay. So, you know, we have discussed leadership in AI. Um, I just want to emphasize it's important to be courageous to advocate for human beings and the planet and leverage AI as a tool, a force for good, because that's sort of what we were talking about. And that the humans and machines can coexist, preserving human values versus annihilating the human race like the Terminator movie. And and I've noticed a lot of my clients, whether in government or corporations, they're very mindful of putting in the guardrails, creating ethics and governance, very high on the agenda. And, going back to purpose, which goes back to the foundation, the self-awareness, values, and purpose, to use Gen AI or AI for the betterment of humanity to create a healthy and flourishing world. And that's the kind of civilization I'd like to build or to be a part of. So just sort of a little wrap up of humans centered leadership in the era of AI. And then maybe to end our podcast discussion, I wanna there's a section in my book called Reflections from Coaching, and it's 18 takes, almost like, if you're in a film, it's take 1, take 2, take 3, and I think the world needs this. So take 12, I called it Choosing Love, It's Transformative. And if anyone saw the FIFA World Cup final, the halftime, entertainment, it was a song about love. It brought That's the soccer World Cup. It brought 49 countries together in Canada, Mexico, and the US. It was, you know, it was collaboration. It was building trust because people were meeting each other from all different parts of the world. And they had a song, and everyone made that heart emoji with their hands. And I really do feel people want love. They want it, to show up, and showing up as respect. Um, and another example that I love, at the beginning of our new administration, this is in the United States, they chose to get rid of DEI. And the Super Bowl, which is, I don't like it's the final for the NFL, which is the National Football League, that used to be more about end racism. They changed their slogan to choose love, and it was written on the field. And I just felt that was so powerful, that they used that platform for the message of choosing love, and people noticed. And I also noticed companies remain committed to DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. But they might have changed their language because they didn't want to get rid of it because it was part of their core values. So again, it's treating everyone with respect and dignity. And I believe whether it's your family, your workplace, uh, sports leagues, when the culture is built on love and empathy or even compassion, it
And
builds,
respect.
yeah, and respect. It builds trust, which has been lacking and we need much more of, and it strengthens collaboration. And, if we're talking about companies, it leads to better return on investment. And there's been many studies out there. Companies with high trust cultures have like 50% higher productivity, 76% more engagement, 74% less stress than those companies with low trust environments. So the research really supports a values-based and human-centered leadership style that gives meaning and values, contributing to something larger, benefiting humanity. And I want to throw in the love. And I remember my publisher saying, Laura, do you really want to talk about love in your leadership book? And I said, I do. I think the world needs love. And so they left it in, which, I'm grateful that they did.
I'm glad it's there too. And I wanted to go back to what you're saying about soccer. I think it was FIFA. I didn't watch any of it.
Mhm.
I'm just not, I'm not going to watch TV ever. I'm just
Right,
not.
right.
Give me a stack of books. I'm all happy. But I've been watching, I'm not going to say the fallout, but the reactions. And what happened from my perspective is that people came from all over the world, from all
Mhm.
over the world. And by and large, you're talking about we were lied. We were lied to. America is great. The people are wonderful. They were talking about Walmart. Look how huge it is. Look how clean it is. You don't have to have a husband walk you. There's a woman and her small son walking all by themselves in a Walmart parking lot. So many countries, they can't do that. It's just not safe. And over and over and over again, I kept hearing, we love America now. We were lied to. We love America. And I'm thinking that's what we need.
Wow,
We
that's
needed to,
beautiful.
yeah, go to Twitter X and you'll find some astonishing stories that make you kind of tear up. Like, we're not a bad country. We're a great country. We're not bad people. They talk about people in the South, which of course is where I am. Y'all
Mhm.
are so friendly. You just took me to your house and fed me. Well, yeah, that's what we do.
Yep.
We'll feed you, gumbo. I mean, we're that's what we do. And it's not just the South, it's the whole darn country by and large. We're good people, but we
Mhm.
have not let people know that apparently.
Yeah, 'cause it's projected by a certain image.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the media. And you know what I think about them? I wanted to ask you, I went on my little soapbox, but one of the concepts you discuss, and we may not have time to get into it today, but anti-fragility. Do you
Yeah,
wanna
I love that one.
Yeah, let's talk about that because you say it actually is becoming stronger because of disruption.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I
what's
love
that
it.
mean?
Yeah, so anti-fragile leadership means designing cultures that grow stronger through stress, feedback, and change, and they turn volatility into insight and momentum rather than fear. So I'll give you a great example, my favorite example. It's in the book. It's Netflix. So I know you don't watch TV, but for those who can remember, Netflix started out as a DVD rental service and then strategically evolved into a streaming giant. Their leadership repeatedly anticipated and capitalized on major disruptions. So, from a streaming giant, they became a content creator, and now they're an AI driven recommendations and interactive entertainment platform. And they're number one worldwide. Uh,
I didn't know that. I mean, I'm aware of Netflix. I remember getting their no, that was AOA. Getting those discs all the time in the mailbox, and I would spray paint them and hang them on trees. I make Christmas ornaments out of them.
Oh, that's creative. So anti-fragile just means showing agility, the ability to strategically transform your company by turning external threats into competitive advantages. And Netflix consistently thrives in an unpredictable media industry. And another example is Amazon. Look how Amazon keeps iterating and changing and leapfrogs really, you know, above the competition.
It's not about books anymore. Listen, I don't
No.
know about you, but if I'm, looking at something online, I try not to go out to a grocery shop. I have it delivered. I really am an introvert. I like people just fine on the other side of the door. But when I'm looking at something, I needed a washing machine not so long ago, and I went to, all the different places. And then I immediately took that, how it was described, and I went to Amazon. I said, "Tell me what people are really saying about this." So if
Mhm.
you're looking for reviews, go to Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon has great reviews.
Mhm.
And the more reviews too
Right.
is helpful. Like if you had a review of a product and they only had 3 reviews, and then there's another product that had 1,000 reviews.
Where are you gonna go?
Yeah, yeah, it
Mhm.
says a lot.
That's exact we are running out of time. Laura, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your insights with us, and I really look forward to having you come back in the new year. But I truly appreciate your perspective on leading with values, purpose, and humanity, so important, humanity, during a
Mm.
time when so many leaders are searching for direction. But before we wrap up, I always like to leave our listeners with one final question, and this one's for you. If there's one message you would like for every listener to remember after today's conversation, what would it be?
Yeah, okay, I would say become self-aware, know your core values, and align with what's meaningful for you personally, professionally, and for your community while contributing to building a better world for humanity, one step at a time.
Exactly. Where can people connect with you? And more importantly to me, where can they find your book? I know it's on Amazon.
Yeah, you can find it on Amazon, Barnes& and Noble, really anywhere where books are sold. You can go to your local bookshop and ask if they have it. If they don't, they can order it. My publisher has made it worldwide distribution, so you can find the book everywhere. Um, and what was your other oh, where can they find me?
LinkedIn, your website, where do you want them to go?
Yeah, I would love for them. They can go on LinkedIn. I don't know if you're going to put in my social media handles, but Instagram, Facebook, my website, which is laurathompson.world. So Laurathompson dot world, WORLD. And you'll find all the books I've published. And my latest is A Culture of Values, The Principles of Transformational Leadership. And you'll learn more about me on my website as well.
It's an easy book to find. It's not pink. Well, it kind of is, but it's a very bright, very, got a lot of depth to it. And if it's wearing a cat, it's an even better book. So it's a great book.
Cat wisdom.
He's 20 pounds. You would think he'd cover the whole thing, but he was using it as a pillow. It was weird. But listen, Laura, thank you so, so, so much for being with us here today, and I really am looking forward to having you coming back. And for our audience, as technology continues to reshape the workplace, the need for authentic, we use that word a lot, values-driven leadership has never been greater. And in this episode, executive advisor and author Laura Thompson shared how leaders can navigate uncertainty, embrace disruption, and we're going to talk more about that next time. Embrace disruption. Now I'm at the end of the hour. I can't talk anymore. As an opportunity for growth and build organizations grounded in purpose, trust, and human connections. So go find her. You can connect with her on her website, as she just said, laurathompson.world, LinkedIn, Instagram, just about anywhere. And her book is available on Amazon. So thank you for joining us for another episode of Your Partner in Success Radio. And I hope today's conversation gave you valuable insights and practical ideas that you can apply as you continue to grow, lead, and create meaningful impact. And when I tell you to go get this book, I mean it. It belongs on your entrepreneurial bookshelf. Trust me on this. So please share this podcast with someone who would benefit from the conversation. And be sure to subscribe so you never miss our upcoming interviews with inspiring leaders and experts. So until next time, keep moving forward and building your success. Laura, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Denise, for having me. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you. I was just about to say the same thing to you.